Hey! Shit. Thought I'd get it in there before Facebook got all shitty with us. You know what? Also, hey! Shit. Hey! Thought I'd get it in there before Facebook got all shitty with us. You know what?
And beyond.
Also,
My name is Mark Bernardin.
I'm Kevin Smith. Hey!
Oh.
I was just inhaling a little pre-show courage, kids. It takes bravery to get up in front of the world and express your thoughts. It's a revolutionary idea for the internet, expressing one's opinion, if you will. Me and Mark Bernardin gather weekly to give you our hot takes, and we've got some magical takes coming for this week's magical fucking debut. I trust, Mark, that you watched WandaVision by now.
I did. I have seen all of the episodes available to the general public. That is not to say that I've got some magic link that's given me all of it either. I've just seen the first two because I'm not a magical person.
Well, that's true. I read some people online like got to see 3 episodes, and I was like, whose fucking dick do I gotta suck to get a third? Like, I got 2, like every other plebe on the planet, just watching what Disney Plus gives us. But then I see some fuckers online have seen episode 3 already, man. The 70s episode. Doesn't seem fair.
Not at all.
Thank you. And there's my hot take for the week. Me and Mark didn't get to see episode 3.
Yeah, take care, everybody.
Yeah, goodbye. Fuck off. We have that to talk about. We have so much to talk about. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Fat Man Beyond. We skipped last week because, well, there was an insurrection. And then everything got better, and we decided perhaps it's time to talk about pithy things again. So here we are, gathering to talk about the shit that matters most to us, ladies and gentlemen. How have you been this week, Captain?
Well, you know, I wrote out Civil War II in fine style.
They even had T-shirts. I saw people in the crowd like said instead of Marvel, it said MAGA, and then it said Civil fucking War. And I'm like, how can anyone say like, oh, this was just happened all of a sudden? They had fucking T-shirts pre-printed.
They had merch.
Yes. Scary times. However, you know, thank God the Republic still stands. Now,
almost by accident, and also thanks to like 3 or 4 really smart fucking people.
You know, we sit around on this show every week and we talk about how fucking amazing Batman is, even though he's not fucking real, or how fucking wonderful Wanda is, even though she's not real. Let's take a moment to acknowledge, do you know the name of the cop who, like, they made a big deal this week?
I don't remember it. Yeah, the black guy who was like, no, you don't want this way.
Led them away. Like, and then you watch the clip, like, once you have that information and see it again and again, and it's like, oh my God, like that dude literally made the difference between life and death. And one of the things that made the biggest difference was just a gentle push to that one guy as he kept going. And then suddenly they were like, let's go this way. Oh, it's like, that was something out of a fucking movie. It was so like, you know, like, remember in Animal House when fucking Stork pushed the dude out of the way and then grabbed the fucking baton and led the parade into like an alleyway? That's like what it felt like in real time. So
according to our special guest today, the fellow's name is Eugene Goodman, who was the officer.
I heard they might be giving him like some sort of like medal or whatever. I'm like, fuck a medal. Give that guy like 3 salaries. Like everybody chip in and make him the richest man in Washington. Like that
feels like every statue should be torn down, and every other one should be Eugene Goodman, and every other one should be Dolly Parton. And if you could do that, then everybody wins.
Everybody would be happy. Yes, it was a very inspiring, heroic moment, man, that we got to see in the post after January 6th. I spent a lot of time writing. I've been writing Clerks 3 and I finished it, thank the Lord. But you know, when you're writing and you know how like much you love something, you don't like, nothing can take you away from it. I'd rather write than fuck and eat. And I love fucking and eating, not at the same time, but you know, writing allows you to do something.
Don't knock it.
True. But writing allows you to like fucking escape, create your own reality. Writing is WandaVision. The plot of WandaVision It's my fucking life, dude. Whenever I'm like, oh God, the outside world is scary and I don't like beekeepers, I just come into this room and I fucking make up a fake world where I control everything and everything's better and shit. So as I was writing Clerks 3, I was having a blast. And then January 6th happened. The only thing that was like scary and compelling enough for me to separate from my material, pull my head out of my ass and stand there for 48 hours glued to CNN, CBS News Channel, everything, just watching. Like I watched them count the electoral votes. 50 years old, never did that in my entire fucking life. And this week I was like, this shit's like the Mandalorian. Like it became my new programs. I was so into it and whatnot. Were you able to, and you got kids, like my kid's like 21. So I didn't have to explain it to her. I was like, America, but you got young kids. What was your explanation?
I mean, my experience was similar to yours in that I was kind of on MSNBC and not Twitter. I had to disengage from Twitter because it was either I'm going to start just lobbing firebombs onto the internet, and that doesn't do anybody any good. And I also don't have any information, which makes that the worst way to be lobbing firebombs. So yeah, it was a lot of MSNBC, a lot of CNN. And, you know, it's funny. My son would walk in every now and again and says, what's happening? Like, is it Trump? And I would say, well, yeah. It's like, what did he do now? It's like, seems like fomented a revolution. Why? Because he lost. He's like, well, but people lose all the time. I was like, yeah, I know. He's like, so every time I lose something, I can then just say it was not real? And I say, no.
That's where you're wrong, kid.
For any number of reasons, you can't do that. But yeah, it's luckily, again, I don't have like a 10-year-old who doesn't quite understand the world, but even still, like 16, it's hard to find a frame of reference for why are they trying to sack the Capitol? And to have that answer be a guy lost an election.
I think about like when I was a kid, when I was in high school, like the biggest thing I believe that happened, newsworthy event, was the Challenger like exploding. And, you know, like even then, your parents, your teachers were trying to like walk you through something, which is essentially like it's an accident. Like nobody saw this coming. Like, go figure. It happened. It's terrible. But at least there's a explanation of sorts. Like there was some sort of mechanical failure, the solar panels, whatever on the outside, like it created a chain reaction and bam, it exploded. I guess there is an explanation for this too, because you can watch the timeline if you go back far enough and see how it foments a lot of unrest and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Not good. Not good, it's just a mild understatement of the year.
Truly. But that's why we come here, kids. This is our safe space where we talk about the battles someone could control and stuff like that. For example, as we tear into WandaVision this week, we're all like, what's going to happen? What's it mean? Somebody out there already knows and has seen the ending. So I like dealing in terrors that are modified by, you know, running time, half hour, 8 episodes, that kind of thing. Yeah. So I prefer the fake world right now.
Yeah. I mean, I prefer not to sweat those things if I don't have to. And luckily, native deodorant keeps me from sweating.
If to honor a segue that smooth, ladies and gentlemen, I shouldn't even call attention to it, but it was so stellar. It needs a celebration of its own, man. It was a sweat-free segue provided by Mr. Mark Bernard. And our hosts, we're the hosts this week. Our sponsor this week on Fat Man Beyond, the good people who are paying our bills and letting this all happen, are the good folks at Native, kids. We've spoke about them before. I literally just took a shower before we did this show. Native all over my body. If you could smell me right now, you smell Native. Mark as well, probably.
I do. Do you smell like candy canes?
Yes. And if people smelled us at the same, be like, no, my internet's unstable. That joke was so hot, my internet went fuzzy.
It was like, EMP. Just fritzed out your internet.
Yeah. You guys all know what Native is, ladies and gentlemen. Native deodorant is formulated without aluminum, parabens, or talc, man. It's also vegan and never tested on animals or anything like that. This is not only do they make this kind of stuff where, you go under your pits, they make body lotion, they make body wash, man. Tell them what they make, Mark.
Man, they make shampoos, they make deodorants, they make everything to make you smell a little bit better. And they got over 10 different scents, including classics and rotating seasonals. Classic scents include coconut and vanilla, they're most popular. Lavender and rose, cucumber and mint, and citrus and herbal musk. Candy cane was a seasonal one, and so I still smell like Christmas.
That's right. You could smell like Christmas for a while, ladies and gentlemen, well into the new year and stuff. Me and Mark aren't going to give up on Christmas. That's the best part of the year, for heaven's sakes. And smelling like candy canes.
If one of your New Year's resolutions was to cut down on your plastic consumption because you're caring for the environment, Native now offers a line of plastic-free deodorants and the most popular scents.
What do you mean plastic-free? Like they don't put them in plastic containers?
Apparently not. Apparently they are plastic-free. That's the option. Maybe they just give you a handful of deodorant.
Yeah, they're like, put out your hand. There you go. Walk away. That means they got to make like a deodorant thing that's made of like wood?
Maybe, recyclable materials, I'm sure.
Look at that, man. They're vegan. They won't test on animals. They're thinking about the environment. These native folks, man, they just want to wash you. That's it. They just want to smell good. They're on your side. They ain't against you. They're for you.
That's all they want from you. And all they need from you, free shipping on every order in the U.S. And Native offers 30-day free returns and exchanges in the U.S. So if you make the switch to Native today by going to nativedeo.com/fatman or use the promo code FATMAN at checkout, you get 20% off your first order. 20%. 20.
You know what 20% is? If they threw in another 80%, it's free. So 20% is substantial, kids.
Fifth of the way to free.
Yes. And you're getting something that's going to improve your life, for heaven's sakes, man. It improves mine. I smell good right now. Somebody asked me, like, what's going on with your sleeves? I put on fake sleeves. These are a pair of socks that I cut open and put on my arms because I hate my fish belly white arms and stuff. So that has nothing to do with Native. But
I thought that was some Muay Thai shit. Like you were going into the stick fighting ring and you're like, I gotta cover some shit up.
No, man, this is me dressing like Ellen Aim from Streets of Fire. I'm getting ready to sing on stage and shit. Out for you tonight. Native deodorant, ladies and gentlemen. The good folks at Native are proud sponsors of Fat Man Beyond. Do me a favor, as you're sitting here watching this show, go over to nativedeo.com/fatman and get yourself some Native, because they're going to give you 20% off if you use the promo code FATMAN at checkout. nativedeo.com. Stop fucking stanking. Native. That's our tagline for them. We're working through.
Yeah.
They've got something better than that.
More thinking, less stinking.
There you go. Fuck. That's a thinking man's tagline. We thank the good folks at Native Deodorant for being involved with this haphazard show of ours. We'll be mentioning them throughout the evening. Every time I get a hint of candy cane, I'll be thinking of and mentioning the good folks at Native. I know we're going to talk about WandaVision in a bit, but should we bring up our guest and go through all the stuff we've been talking about?
I think we should. I think this gentleman has been very patient, waiting in the wings as we blow our deodorant sponsors. Native, DEO.com. So yeah, man, let's bring him in.
Tell us how we got here, Mark.
We got our guest, a fellow named Skylar Astin, who's on a television show called Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. I keep wanting to say it's Infinite Playlist just because I remember Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, but it's not that. But Skylar reached out of the blue and he was like, hey man, listen, I'm a fan of the podcast. My brother turned me on to it. Would it be cool if I just swung by and just shot the shit with you guys? And I said, yeah, man. Yes, you can do that. For two reasons. A, he seemed cool and it was a good approach, and I always respect that. And I'm here for any person who gets to work with Jane Levy, who was on Castle Rock, who I got to know a little bit. at San Diego Comic-Con, and I don't think we were on set together ever. But she was very, very lovely. And I figure if she thinks a person is good enough to be on a TV show with, then that person's good enough to be a guest star on our show.
Specious logic, but I'll accept it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Fat Man Beyond, Skylar Astin. Skylar, how are you?
I just want to do an entrance like you did. I'm well, man.
That was Skylar Astin, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
His ass is getting out of here right now.
Exactly. Yeah.
Skylar, where are you? Are you in Los Angeles or New York or where?
I'm actually in rainy Vancouver. I am on day 12 of 14 of government quarantine, round 2, because we are back filming on Monday. So we got to go home for Christmas, and now I'm back here.
So explain to the folks at home who haven't had to encounter this, or you're on a TV show. So in order to go up there and shoot your TV show, normally pre-pandemic, you could fly up fucking night before, show up 7 a.m, go to work. Now you can't do that at all.
No, now you have to have a full 14 days, and you got to have tests, negative tests before you fly. And then we've actually had some nurses come here. I've been tested 3 times in quarantine. They are incredibly careful. Not only like the production that I'm on, but just straight up Canada. They are rule followers. They're like, WHO says 7 to 10 days, not our rules. We're going to go with our instincts at 14. So they're being super careful and keeping their numbers down.
And so have you been in that space that you're in right now for that amount of time? How long you been there so far?
You're looking at it. Yeah, this is day 12 of 14. I've been there. I've been here a few times, been there more. But yeah, this is it. I was actually like FaceTiming with my girlfriend, and I was pacing vigorously last night. And she's like, I'm getting nauseous watching you. Can you stay still? I'm like, you don't understand what I deal with. Like, I cannot go outside. It's bizarre.
That's strange. So what do you do for eats?
I go grocery shopping, and I'm able to accept DoorDash and, those kinds of delivery services. So I've been doing a lot of that this time around. But yeah, I've been like kind of cooking, but then that means you have to always be cleaning. I've been writing music, watching stuff, keeping busy, doing a lot of press for the show because the show just came out.
And this is so weird to ask, but did they pay actors for that time that you're sitting there in quarantine?
That's a great question, Kevin. And the answer is fucking no, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I think that there's some cast members on our show that are looking into that. Because, people always assume that like they're putting me up here and that I get per diem. But when you're a series regular on a show, and of course not complaining, such privileged work, and of course I get a series regular paycheck, but like that, you have to factor in your expenses like that. I have to find a rental apartment in Vancouver, a rental car, food for, money for food. So, it's kind of on you, but I can't complain.
Now, being that you're shooting a show in Vancouver, does it heighten your awareness of all the other shows in Vancouver that are shot where you're like, I've been there, I've shot there, I've been.
Oh yeah. Nothing is Europe anymore. Nothing is the future anymore. I'm like, that's the marina. That is that one Gothic building. They just built up a couple stuff with VFX, but yeah. And what's weird is that last year I was doing reshoots on a Disney Plus film that I did. And there's this place, perhaps you've actually shot there, called Riverview. It's like a mental institution, and it is like for real haunted in every single way. And so that's when you hear the stories about like, yeah, on Supergirl, a girl disappeared, or like when they were shooting, they were shooting The Flash, and like you should have seen what happened, man. Extras just started turning into zombies. But no, it was weird. It was like, don't go in this room; it will lock behind you, and we can't explain why. We've been trying to undo that for years. It was a freaky place, but it looked amazing. That's the thing about Vancouver. It doesn't have such an identity, but it keeps it open to really be malleable for other places. Like this could be New York.
Yeah.
I thought he was in Miami. I thought his drug cartel business was kicking off, and he was in Miami.
Which, by the way, unrelated it is, but no, Vancouver for me for now.
What is
Are there other actors in the same building who are quarantining?
Say it again.
Are there other actors in the same building who are quarantining? Like, is it some giant actor prison where you're like slipping notes under doors? And
honestly, that'd be great. I wouldn't mind that. The show creator is going to move in here after quarantine, and we'll actually be able to hang out. But we're all actually this year in the same area, and it's pretty walkable. It's a really great spot called Yale Town, and it's just like all the restaurants. And when you could go places, it's the place to go. Place to be.
That's good. Yeah, there's what is it, Nestor's Markets right there.
I love Nestor's. And that's the thing is like this, it always used to be, it's near the bars, it's near the workout facilities. Now it's like it's near the only two places you could go. Grocery store. I don't know, other store,
So true. Is this season 1 or 2?
This is the second. We shot last year, and it was really well received. Has a great cast: Mary Steenburgen, Jane Levy, Peter Gallagher, myself, some really great people. And it's a musical, so it's like about this girl. It's kind of like a super power show with musicals, because this girl has this unique power due to this crazy phenomenon where she can hear people's thoughts through song. So how she navigates that. And it can be a cornball concept, but they really ground it with this great family story and this love interest storyline. And this year now it's really evolving, and it says a lot about like the human condition and consciousness versus subconsciousness, but there's also this great reward of like musical numbers.
Are they incorporated, since we're in COVID, do they incorporate COVID, or in your world of the show, that's not a factor?
I think in a world where such a power could exist, we're just basically froze 2019 for a minute. And I also believe that like, I kind of like shows that do it when they have to, but I think in order for this show to stand the test of time, it would immediately date us. And if Zoe's getting up at work and someone's wiping down a surface behind her, I think it would just be distracting. However, no, don't want to give everybody spoilers for those people who haven't seen the first season, but there's a little bit of something that she has to get through and kind of carry on and soldier on and find her way back to the workplace for the first time in person for a while. So you can't help but like think of those parallels, and our show has kind of always been meta, I think, in the right ways. And this is no exception.
And where can they watch it? Is NBC?
It's NBC. You could catch up on, they did this weird thing because now they're promoting Peacock, but you can see the second season, the stuff that's recently aired on Hulu. But if you want to go back to season 1, you got to go to Peacock. But there's a free version of Peacock, so you could actually, binge it there.
Very true.
You're going to get to be in like rooms with people and like shake their hands and hug them and stuff.
Yeah, I've kissed a person. Multiple times. It was out of control. I know it wasn't subtle either. But it was like a culture shock for both of us. We've done that before. Jane, so your favorite. I've kissed your favorite, and yes, I like it. And no, this year was bizarre though, because we got tested every single day. And even the first take, it was like, should we? And then she's like, you can go for it for real. But it was, it's just bizarre. Even doing intimate scenes and being in a small apartment with a crew, it's like, what's happening here?
That is crazy. Like, think about like how, like if it was always, it's always a weird thing in the world of acting where it's like, and then we kiss because, kissing is such a weirdly intimate act and whatnot. And suddenly you're like, oh, let's just fucking kiss. Now it's like, I don't even know if I fucking trust you. You know what I'm saying? Like, now there's this.
I think it's like, I would sooner fuck you than kiss because at least like the 2021 wrap it up is wear a mask, not a condom. It's like, hey, I might have a kid, but at least I'm not going to die.
No, just life, not death.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to be burdened with life, not death. Exactly.
Now, can you, and you can't even, I mean, I guess you could, but like you don't want to, you can't really object. Like if you were a performer right now who's like, look, I don't even want to risk it and stuff, but they're like, it's for the story. Like you can't, like you gotta have to go with it, right? Like if anyone's a germaphobe right now, they got to get over that shit apparently.
I've heard of some stories about some people on other shows that are like not breaking their series regular contract because they have a certain agoraphobia, and they've always been kind of weird about sanitizing and stuff, but now in this world they're like, or new mothers that are just like, I'm so sorry, I'm in Australia with my family, like I'm not going to go to Atlanta where it's worse, and like at this stage in my career I think you can replace me. And it's a weird choice that people have to make. But I think if you sign on to something, you have to trust the process. And I mean, it's been like a adjustment, to the new normal. There are literally scientists in lab coats and red vests that hover over like this separate agency around our set. And it's a little bizarre. Like we have this beautiful, colorful, wonderful world of Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. And if you bump the camera a little bit, you will see what looks like a Stranger Things set or something like that. Like, you know what I mean? Those people with the gloves and just full on hazmat suits.
It's so crazy. They're not professionals, So I'm sure they're happy to be working, but beneath it all, they must be like, we're in the middle of a pandemic and you're making pretend.
Yeah. By the way, there's something to be said about that. And like, people get such a bad rap for that. But the thing is, like, this film industry does contribute a ton to BC's economy. And, you know, on another level, you know, people, when they're bitching about not having shows to watch, it's like, well, we're giving you the shows. Because the thing is, like, if we keep stopping, you're not going to have shows for another, as you know, like with editing, another 2 years. So we are taking that calculated risk, and knock on wood, in 7 episodes, no one's popped, and we've been going. I mean, we're airing already. It's like happening.
Fucking A. What is the lag time between the shoot and an airing of an episode right now?
We started shooting in August, and now we've had 2 episodes air, but we stopped at 7. So it's about to catch up to us. And actually, NBC this was always a part of the deal. We're going off for like 6 weeks, and it'll give post time to catch up. And NBC, which has a Tetris board right now, of scheduling, and they got to figure out their few shows and how to slot it in. So, we'll probably take a little bit of a mid-season break.
Are your songs new compositions or needle drop?
They're needle drops and cover songs. The whole thing is she's getting an MRI in the pilot, and there's an earthquake in San Francisco. So this guy who's like, I got everything. I got literally Spotify, iTunes, it's all in the machine. So it all downloads into her brain. So everything from, I've done opera on the show, rock and roll, I just did a Jet song, Boys to Men recently. So it's really fun. It's like, it's interesting too, because that could feel like jukebox musically, but like fitting these literal lyrics into a narrative has been like a challenge and a reward, because it specifies, what we're talking about in the songs we can pick from. And it works kind of well.
You told me, man. I'm fucking in. That was like, you've done a better job at selling the show than NBC did. I'm like, that's really cool.
It's pretty wild. Yeah. And the thing is that like, and I won't keep like self-congratulating, but I will say that like a lot of people, when they saw the 30-second promo, it looks a little fun and bubblegummy and lighthearted and comedy. And then like they get fucked up from this like family drama storyline. They're like, yo, I was super emotional. So we are hitting some different, notes on it. Literally.
Okay.
Talk a little bit. I mean, I don't want to sound like a journalist, because this would be a question I would ask as a journalist. So tell me how, growing up, you reconciled the theater nerd plus the geek. Like, did those things, were they dual tracks for you? Did you discover one earlier?
It was kind of a flip for me, because like, and now I've incorporated it and leveled off and balanced it out. But like when I was growing up, I was, 2 brothers, pure boy, playing sports, playing action figures. I had, huge into wrestling actually growing up, WWF. And would always go see like big blockbuster movies with my siblings. But then again, I would also, since I grew up in the tri-state area, like once every year, twice a year, I'd get to go to Broadway. And I was such a big fan. And I've been playing piano since I was 5 as a hobby, but then I kind of started to incorporate singing. And when I kind of realized I wasn't going to advance much in the basketball world, I tried like just a one-time thing to audition for a community theater production of Godspell, and ended up getting the lead role, and then ended up like kind of doing a full 180, and got super immersed into theater, and then like went to a theater camp. Talk about geeky. I mean, like I was doing Les Mis at 15 with braces, and just got totally bitten by the bug. And then I was on Broadway at 17. And then started doing TV and film, and now everything's kind of leveled out, where like I did this film, Secret Society of Second Born Royals, where I got to do some stunt work. And I realized between dance and learning choreography and fight choreography, and even the training I've done with boxing and Muay Thai, like that's something that I really enjoy both as I've been doing. And so yeah, I feel like I embrace every different side of me and every different level of geek that I have.
Fucking A, man. Were you in Spring Awakening?
Yeah, original cast.
Well, fuck, man, that was huge.
Yeah.
What year was that?
That was 2007. But I did the first, like, they do these workshops in New York. It takes forever to get a show to Broadway, and so I did the first workshop in 2005. And then 6, we went off Broadway, extended, transferred to Broadway 2007, won all these Tonys, and it just went on from there. Won a Grammy Award for soundtrack. But it's a fascinating thing because I've had like other successes and more commercial, I guess, successes, but that to me will always be the one because
is Broadway success like translate to TV and movies, or like did it happen instantly when Spring Awakening took off where people were like, hey, come fucking do this shit?
I think like we got to like audition for some cool mini series in New York, you know, and I got my first film ever from the interest of Spring Awakening, but I still had to audition for this film called Hamlet 2. It's my first movie ever. And I did it on like leave of absence from Spring Awakening. But other than that, I cut my teeth doing pilots that never got picked up and so many generals that, you know, I would say, oh, I was in, so tell me about this Spring Awakening. What network was it on? And I'm like, oh no, it's not that kind of a show. It was so this was before social media could really like take things like Hamilton and make it translate. So no, in a way I was totally starting over when I came out to LA.
It's wild, man.
I imagine like Spring Awakening would be like, hey, you were on The Wire, weren't you? That was cool. So hey, do you want to read for this role? It's like, no, I was on best show on TV for a while. No, that's great, but we're looking for something.
Oh, my first pilot that I got was this like CBS sitcom with Adam Carolla and Jimmy Kimmel, and I got that from the pre-read phase where you have to read with the casting director with no camera even because they need to screen you to even know if it's worth recording you. So I mean, like 10 callbacks later, I'm like, my show won 8 Tonys. But the thing is, like, another thing that theater kind of teaches you is really to try to be egoless, because while you're on the top of your game, the paycheck isn't that wonderful. It's such hard work. It's such a grind. And, you know, you just don't have those kind of luxuries. They don't feed you. You got to bring your own food. If you're late, you get docked. I mean, there's like some old school theater rules. So if anything, like that kind of prepared me more work ethic wise for everything else, you know, having some craft services, like get out of here.
All right. The chat room is they're getting Wanda anxious.
Okay.
Skylar, you watched WandaVision as well?
I did, yeah.
Mark, you watched WandaVision. We're all prepared to dive into WandaVision.
We are indeed.
Let's give the kids what they want. This weekend, ladies and gentlemen, Disney Plus debuted WandaVision. Their first, you know, big show since The Mandalorian, as far as I'm concerned, right? Did I miss anything? I think that was the
first Marvel TV show to premiere on the Disney Plus.
And the first Marvel anything that we've had in over a fucking year. Like last thing we had was Spider-Man Far From Home, if I remember correctly. Mm-hmm. Then all of 2020 was, you know, a horrible abyss of no Marvel. So sitting down and watching that logo come up and then seeing that they incorporated footage from Endgame into the logo, you just bathed with this warmth of, oh, we're back. Like everyone's been craving some fucking normalcy. That logo alone was worth the price of admission because it gave you a sense of like, all right, maybe things will get back to normal one day. Before the show even began, I was right there with it. The show itself is wonderful. It's weird. I mean, if you've seen the spots, you've pretty much seen like the first 2 episodes. There was a lot of the black and white stuff and whatnot. And they're world building. They're setting it up in an interesting way. Hats off for mimicking, of course, what a lot of people refer to as the Nick at Night like look, you know, in terms of the first episode was, what would you say, kind of Donna Reed-ish to some degree?
Donna Reed-ish or Bewitched.
Bewitched was definitely the second one. They even flat out had the like opening animation, which was dope. But like, you know, watching them do these incredibly loyal homages, like that's entertaining in and of itself, particularly because it's like, hey, those 2 cats are movie stars, man. Like, so that's a great gimmick right then and there. And you could probably get away with that if it was just the show. But we all know that the show is something more, that on the surface it's bright and poppy, and underneath there's a sadness. You know, it seems like Wanda is broken. We all know that Vision is dead, and we didn't even come back through the portals in Endgame, so he's just fucking dead. And yet here he is standing beside her and whatnot. So clearly she's had a break with reality, and she's creating her own reality, a pocket universe, perhaps. We don't know what it is. They haven't fucking told us yet. But pocket universe seems to be, plausible explanation, which means we could see Rob Liefeld's Captain America at any moment. Tiny feet and large pectoral muscles. Remember that pocket universe?
So many badges, so many pouches.
The Heroes Reborn, that was a pocket universe. A lot of folks have speculated on Twitter over the last 48 hours about the connection of this or the inspiration it may have derived from the classic storyline House of M, which for those who aren't well schooled in this, the biggest moment from House of M is Wanda Maximoff in a close-up says 3 simple words that changed the Marvel universe for a long fucking time, and it was no more mutants. She's the most powerful mutant in the world. She got rid of all the fucking mutants in the Marvel universe. So no more were gonna happen and stuff like that. So obviously they can't do that here. There are no mutants in the current Marvel Cinematic Universe, although we know there will be because they got, they bought the Fox library, so mutants are on their way. And some people are speculating that it begins with WandaVision. Maybe she's creating alternate realities where we're going to pull mutants in from or something like that. But a lot of folks pointed to that one moment in episode 2 where she sees the beekeeper come out of the ground, like we've seen in the trailer a zillion times. And then they go in close on her and she just said no. And all of a sudden everything rewound and took them back to the moment before they went outside, and suddenly everything changed to color. So they're giving you the impression with that if she doesn't like something, she can completely fucking change it. She can rewind, she could reset, she could write a happy ending for herself. And that's kind of what it seems like she's all about at this moment in time, writing happy endings for herself, which to me, just it screams that it's going to be fucking heartbreaking. That's what I'm fucking there for. I'm happy they're doing the Nick and Knight stuff. It's very clever, but I'm there to watch Wanda break down because Wanda Maximoff has had a hard fucking life and they picked the right character to kind of head in this direction with. I don't know if they're turning her into a big bad, for Multiverse of Madness, if it's going to be Strange versus her, or if it's going to be Strange and Wanda trying to fix what she's broken in WandaVision. But it seems like in phase 4, man, they're building Lizzie Olsen up to be fucking huge. Like Wanda's taking the fucking stage in a big bad way. And when you look at all her previous work on the Marvel Universe, because after the show, I went to YouTube and did one of those dives where you're like, every Wanda scene ever, and people put those together. She's only been in these Marvel movies for a total of 20 minutes, if you compile all her shit. So we're seeing more of Wanda and Vision in WandaVision than we've ever seen in any of the previous incarnations in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. For that, it's exciting. I'm impatient as fuck, though. I want the pain. I want the sorrow. I want the tragedy. I want the real world to encroach a lot faster than it's encroaching. I love the 2 moments, the one in episode 1 with the neighbors where, the wife is Deborah Jo Rupp is like, stop it. That shit was like Lynchian, David Lynchian. I liked her looking at the radio in episode 2 and hearing like, Wanda, can you read us? And the beekeeper coming out of the ground with the sword fucking, outfit on. I want more of that. And I'm sure we're going to get that. So I'm just patiently doing this, enjoying the fuck out of it. My wife, who doesn't like any of this shit, literally stayed up with me until 1 a.m. or 12, when they put it up on Disney Plus out here, and watched both episodes with me, and did that thing that I love more than watching the movies is explaining to people what is happening in the movies because I know it so well. So every time she was like, what's going on? I could pause it and be like, well, this is what happened years ago, and I could do the deep dive. And she was engaged enough with the program to tolerate me. Normally she's like, I don't care. Just, it's too confusing. So after I walked her through it, she was like, all right, press play. And she was fucking in, man. And I think that has everything to do with the performances. Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, absolutely crushing it. They got their characters down to a science, yes, but they get to do a lot more in this than they've ever done in the movies as Vision and the Scarlet Witch. For a guy that collected the comic book miniseries back in 1985 when I was a kid or whatever it came out, it was thrilling to watch these two characters take center stage, and to take center stage with what I smell to be a very fucking tragic story. Gentlemen, take over.
Skylar, what do you think? You go, and then I will do the thing I do.
Oh, well, all right. Well, I think that, it's an interesting way of like letting the audience into the world. That's kind of the old classic way of doing it in the 50s. It was like this soft serve way of presenting in almost a diorama way characters. And in a way, it kind of reintroduced Paul Bettany and Lizzie Olsen. And it's kind of like if you have the patience, it's like a star-making performance, because like you could totally see in another world Lizzie Olsen playing Lucy, or you know what I mean, Paul Bettany doing a Dick Van Dyke thing, and you got to see homages to that. I thought for sure when I initially heard that they were releasing the first 2 episodes, I told my brother, I was like, so I will bet you that the whole first episode is black and white, and at the very end you get some color, and then we're going to really start to get going in episode 2. I didn't realize that we were going to get like 3.5 Easter eggs over the course of 2 episodes. So I do, however, have blind faith in the Marvel universe, and also that opening, that cold open, or just the credits was like a warm blanket for me. And also the first time seeing it on television, I think. I don't know that I've seen that on TV, like other than watching, Endgame on Blu-ray. So I thought that was thrilling. I love the Catherine Hahn character. I think there's just a lot of setup, and there's not much to really weigh in on because not much has happened. However, I couldn't help but think that while they were satirizing the 1950s version of a sitcom, that laugh track was like, I felt a level of darkness in it because the jokes themselves weren't really that funny. So, it almost feels like antagonistic, like the laugh track is laughing at the leads. So while they're putting on a brave face, you could feel that kind of tension there. So I like the subtle hint of that, and I like the style of it. I like any time someone could do something in an unusual way and with style, and that's definitely what they're going for here. I think that the reveal of the color world was better than any Wizard of Oz could ever do it. I almost wish I saw that on the big screen. Other than that, it worked very well in the aspect ratio where it was presented, and I'm really interested to see where it goes from here.
Let's talk about Catherine Hahn real quick. She's playing a character called Agnes right now, but everyone online seems to think because she's wearing a very similar brooch to a character called Agatha Harkness from Marvel that she is this witch character, just going by a shortened or a different name. There's been some speculation about in the credits. They did, at the end of the show, the first episode, there's somebody, they pulled back and they showed somebody from Sword, which could be Darcy, Kat Dennings' character, watching the show with credits. One of the credits was the name of a character from Spider-Man, one of the kids in the Spider-Man movies. That seemed like a deep divey kind of like, let's try to piece this together. I don't know that was necessarily intentional, but you never know with Marvel, they could be doing that. There's a little Easter eggs like the bottle of wine, the House of M, Maison du whatever. It was like a House of M reference. And I think there's like a date on the bottle as well. That was kind of a reference. Monica Rambeau has shown up. For those who are like, who's that? She was the daughter of Captain Marvel's best friend. What was her name? I forget, but we know her daughter's name is Monica. She's the one that like she gave the jacket to when she was a kid. Captain Marvel came, took the jacket back. She said, give me that fucking jacket, kid. She's the kid that picked out the color design on Captain Marvel's suit as she was sitting there putting the suit together. So that took place in the 90s. This takes place in present day. So Monica Rambeau, all grown up. From the comics back in the day, Monica Rambeau also goes on to become a Captain Marvel one day, if I remember correctly. So not sure what's going on with the character, how she's in play here, other than it sounds like she may be, based on the trailers more than anything else, she may be working for Sword. Spoilers in the spots that they've been showing where clearly somebody gets jettisoned out of Wanda's reality, it looks like Monica Rambeau. So clearly she must work for Sword or somebody on the side of the good people trying to get in and pull Wanda out. Now, on the listing for the show on Disney Plus, like, you know, it's comedy or blah, blah, blah. But one of the descriptions was mystery. And I thought that was rather appropriate because that's kind of what they're building here. But then I also realized that I'm fucking no good with mysteries, like, because I just want to know what happened. So, like, I'd almost wish they would start at the end and then just fill us in, you know, later on. I just want to know what the fuck's happening and what's going wrong. But everybody, of course, feels that way as well. I'm here for it week after week, but I would much prefer if they just did a fucking dump. But at the same time, look what it does. Every week it's going to create a conversation with people and stuff. It's so strange to live in this moment in time where you're like, oh, wow, how cool. They're stretching the story out and making me come back for it week after week, as if this is a fucking new concept. Like, this is what we were raised in. Like, the idea of, you know, oh, you can't watch this every week. Or you can't watch it every day or whenever you want. You only get it like once a week. And it's so weird that we've gone so far flung of that, where it's like, I can watch whatever I want, when I want. I don't need a video store. I can just fucking pull it down on my laptop. And now they're bringing us back to this world where they're like, no, we're just going to give you a piece at a time, man. If you're really good, we'll give you two at a time. It's strange because, like, at some moment, I'm like, wow, this is revolutionary. I'm like, it's not revolutionary. They're just doing the same old shit that we used to do back in the day. Mark, do I detect some spice for this popper cash? Is that what I understand you're bringing? Do you have things?
Two things are true at the same time. The first, I really enjoyed watching these two episodes. Like, I kind of had a good time with it, and Elizabeth Olsen is doing like awesome work, and Paul Bettany is a lot funnier than I remember him being. But I should also remember that he's funny. Like, you know, the first time I saw him was in A Knight's Tale, where he's playing a just out and out comedic character. Like, he's got all of those chops. But also, if this wasn't a Marvel show, I would not watch more than that first episode. Like, the faith that I have, the investment that I now have in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is the reason why I'm coming back, not because either of those episodes earned my return. You know, like we've gotten very precious, I think, with time, despite the fact that time doesn't exist anymore, because there's so much to watch, because there's so many options, because there's the smorgasbord just seems to go on forever. And so if I'm going to give a half an hour to anything, like, all right, earn it in my half an hour. Like, you get one of these, maybe two if you're lucky. And the second is simply on charm. But you get one. And if I had to judge this independent of it being Scarlet Witch and Vision, I don't know if I would come back for a second episode, because, to your point, kind of nothing happens. Like, there's little kind of precision of interesting and a little tiny bit of sinister, but like, you got to tell me what this show is. Like, at the end of the pilot for Lost, like, there's a giant fucking polar bear and a smoke monster, and somebody says, guys, where are we? And I'm like, yeah, where the fuck are we? Because this is insane. A plane crashed, and like, stuff happened, and I don't understand any of it.
I just have to pause you just to read you some of the feedback, Mark.
Yes, please.
Here we go. Ready? Just a sampling.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with the guy who's talking. Preach. Spit games, son. Exactly. Built-in loyalty. This it agreed with Mark. It's true. I'm staying because I love the big picture, not because the episodes were that good. You may have nailed it, Mark, for a lot of people. I co-sign that. If it wasn't Marvel and if it wasn't Vision and the Scarlet Witch, if I didn't know or suspect based on the trailers of what its connection is to everything, to something I already love, one episode probably would have been like, oh, that's clever, and then I'm moving on and stuff. But You're right, because it's Marvel. I'm like, no, something's gonna happen. I'll wait.
And I also can't fault them for knowing that I'm that person, right? Like, they know who we are, and they know we're going to stick around, and they know how much we bring to it. So they know we know that Scarlet Witch is grieving desperately the loss of her great love. And so we know, you, me, Skylar, everybody watching knows that this is her sort of fantastical imagination who's creating all this stuff. We're bringing so much to the table And all they're doing is giving us a nice black and white version of that table. And we're like, I can't wait till the thing I think is going to happen happens. Or I can't wait till they tell me the thing that I think is going to happen isn't what's happening, but they'll tell me something else and that'll be cool. Like, we are active participants in this drama.
Marty Morton in the chats is summing you up by saying, I've invested 28 years in Marvel. I don't need the drag on. The show was okay. Like you kind of did hit the nail on the head, which is like what keeps me in my seat was my investment, like in the universe. What made the show vastly entertaining for me in the first 2 episodes, other than just watching the show and seeing it come to life, I think it's very bold. I like where it's going, but yes, I'd like it to hurry up and stuff. But it was made more enjoyable for me by somebody who was absolutely lost in the room, and I could be like, oh, well, I can tell you everything about this shit. And if I didn't have that, I might have like noticed like you did. I might have been like, huh.
Yeah. And it's funny, like Skylar turned me around on something because I was also, completely recognized what they were doing. It's like, oh yeah, that's Dick Van Dyke and that's Bewitched and that's I Love Lucy, but it's not as funny as any of them are, and the question is that not funny on purpose? Or is that not funny just we couldn't figure out a way to be as funny as classic sitcoms, which is hard because they're great. And it was Skylar mentioning that the laugh track has become this kind of sinister, this minor chord in the kind of orchestration of the show that's adding this level of dread to it because it's laughing at things that aren't funny. And I do just kind of wonder if there was another way to play that where the jokes worked and the laugh track drops out for the things that are funny, but it starts to laugh at the things that aren't funny. And like, just to better succeed at the facsimile that this is actually a classic sitcom instead of just this weird meta kind of 50s cosplay with these characters, even though I appreciate the lengths to which they've gone to replicate that feel and that mood and that, the weird prefabness of everything and the weird, like, day glow mood of everybody who walks in that door. Everybody's more chipper than they have any right to be chipper about. But I do, like, I sense that thing that Skylar was getting at, but I also kind of I wanted it to be the thing that it was. And I kind of wanted not to feel as if it was a shortcoming, but rather an on purpose decision that they made. But like all of this to say, they know exactly who I am and they know that I'm going to watch all of it. And so I can't blame them for knowing that. Like, to pretend that they don't know that would be like, duh, why should they pretend that they don't know that? So I'm in, but only because it's Marvel in a way, not because the show is earning it, but because the Marvel Cinematic Universe has earned it already. This is the, like, we're skating because we already won the trophy. And so, hey, it's all good. We don't have to skate that hard. We don't have to skate that fast. It's the Pro Bowl. Like, there's nobody keeping score here. Like, we're just here to do a victory lap, guys. And we're going to hang out in Hawaii for 2 weeks and get a bunch of lays on and drink a lot of Mai Tais and maybe throw a ball or two.
Is that for those of us that don't follow sports but do follow hockey, would that be the equivalent of, say, the All-Star game?
Indeed. That is you did good all year.
It's even different because it's after the Super Bowl, so truly no one cares. It's not even in the middle of it. It literally is done. Like, they're on full vacation trying not to get hurt for the following year.
Oh, I thought you were making an analogy for like Marvel where you're like, this is after the Super Bowl. Like, Endgame was the Super Bowl.
Well, in a way, also, that is the truth, which, by the way, makes the metaphor of the Pro Bowl all the more, accurate.
Even sweeter. Smeasel in our comments section in the chat on YouTube says, I get what Mark is saying, but I think starting the audience within the fantasy was enough to have me invested. Just mimicking the classic sitcom in 2020 is enough to give an impression of what's coming. I agree. And again, I love the conceit. I was happy when they got out of black and white, and that's so weird because I made Clerks. But like, I was very happy when we got to the 70s in color, because that, maybe it's because like all the footage I've seen where shit starts going wrong is in color. So I was like, the faster we get out of the black and white era, the closer we'll get to the plot, and to the outside world. Tim Gildersleeve in chat said, pointed out the line, where she said, "My husband and his indestructible head," which, was kind of funny considering that fucking Thanos proved her way wrong. JC, did you watch it? I know you're, the resident Star Wars kid, but you got some Marvel skin in the game. Did you watch or no?
I did watch it, and I felt very similar to Mark, but I was also struck. I mean, this was only like 22 minutes per episode. So if you think back to the first episode of Game of Thrones, which was like an hour long, I remember watching that and going, what the fuck am I watching? Who are all of these people? What are they doing? Why are they walking on this thing called the King's Road? And then the last like 10 seconds of the episode, it's like, oh my God, that brother and sister are fucking and they just killed a kid. Right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Perhaps at the end of episode 3, we'll get that moment in WandaVision that's very much like, what? Where you're blown away by it. But I think, we just haven't seen very much of it. And if it's going to be a slow burn and they're going to give us that end of Game of Thrones, holy cow moment at the end of episode 3, I'm in for it. I'm excited.
I mean, I'm not going to keep watching, but like...
Yeah, mind you, this ain't anybody going like, it don't work. This is just us going like, it works good. Give us more. Finding the Stranger in the Alps in the chat said the commercials in the episodes are referencing Wanda's trauma, the beeping Stark toaster bomb that almost killed her and her brother, and the Strucker watch when he experimented on her with the Loki staff. I honestly, I did not pick that up until, I knew they were like, oh, one is Stark Industries and one is Strucker, like the watch, like the Baron. But then it wasn't until afterwards that I was online and I was like, oh my God, like those weren't just kooky little spots they threw in for Marvel fans. That's part of the fucking story for Wanda.
I think anything going into that Pleasantville tone is innately dark. It is a reminder. It's the contrast. Happy, happy, happy means like we're covering for something that it's going to override like Wanda's ability. I also wonder if they like, if they did, if they released this like all 10, I don't know how many episodes it's actually ordered for, but like, let's say 8 or 10 episodes, if they released it all at once and you got to digest it in 1 or 2 sittings, I wonder if we wouldn't be, I wonder if maybe they should have, if something wild happens at the end of 3, then maybe that's what they should have given us 3 at once or something like that, just to give all the people who have come to expect a little bit more action, something that to settle their nerves a little bit. Then again, I do maintain my stance on the fact that they have, with the comics, they've earned it for longer amounts of time, but even with the film and now TV adaptations, they've earned, me to sit on my ass for an hour and like, embrace the setup of it all.
Embassy Nerdcore in chat said the indestructible head was Wanda's first line, meaning before she even figured out her backstory, the wedding date, etc., she decided from moment one that Vision in this reality needed that feature. I love when people deep dive. Like, I would never fucking put that together. Like, oh my God, like that, there's a sadness even to that line where she's like, I wish he had an indestructible head. That would have fucking changed the game. Eric Nelson is pointing out, he says, devil, in quotes, equals Mephisto. Thoughts? There was one reference that I think Agnes made at one point, something about the devil. And at that point I said to my wife, like, oh my God, the devil in Marvel Comics is Mephisto. And then I went back to watching the show. Do we think there's like in the animated Bewitched opening, there was a helmet, a Grim Reaper helmet, shadow outline in like what looked like a case or something like that. Do we feel this is being done to her by somebody else?
Like, personally, I don't think so, and I don't quite think that Mephisto feels very big for what this seems like it's going to be. This seems to be a little bit more intimate and a little bit more, sword, which is like the sentient weapons observation response division. It seems like they're a watch group more than they are a, we're going to go in and start doing shit to people group. And also the sentient weapon part is like, well, shouldn't you be here for Vision and not Scarlet Witch? But okay, whatever, sure. But yeah, I mean, it feels as if she's doing something and they're afraid that it's going to go bad. And so they're keeping tabs on her, trying to pull her out of her own mind before it does something awful to the real world. And that awful thing may or may not lead directly into Doctor Strange too, which is, does she create a multiverse that hadn't existed before? Does she shatter the fabric of reality?
Well, I mean, what everyone's wondering or hoping for online is that it's a variation on No More Mutants, where instead she just says more mutants. That's what populates the Marvel universe. While I loved that, I loved No More Mutants in House of M, I don't, look, I'll take mutants anyway and get them in this MCU, but I hope that's not it. I hope it's not like she wishes mutants into the world.
I mean, the other thing that it could be is, there is a multiverse, and we kind of know that there is a multiverse. And maybe the thing that she does is, rather than shatter everything into a multiverse, is collapse all the multiverses into one. And so the universe that had mutants is now this universe. The universe that had vampires is now this universe. The universe that had a Fantastic Four is now this universe. And so it's the way you get to incorporate all of that other shit and make it into the one thing that we now can move forward on. And so it's less, I'd like some mutants, please, and more, oh shit, the world that had mutants, the Marvel 619 universe, is now Earth 1. The universe that had vampires, so we can bring Blade in, is now Earth 1. And all of this shit is here together. And for somehow reason, whatever, Doctor Strange in that sequel has to find a way to balance that, because the world is tearing itself apart because there's too much world in it. Maybe. I don't know. Making shit up as I go.
Yeah, no, that sounds viable. I just don't know. Like somebody said what I thought it might be. Let me find it. It just went by.
While you're finding it, one of the chainsaw in chat said that the 23 for the anniversary, there has been 23 MCU films.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Somebody I can't find the message, but their breakdown was like Sword sent Wanda in to some place and she got absorbed into it, so that they're saying this isn't her creating it.
Yeah,
she is trapped in a thing. Hence the Wanda, who's doing this to you and stuff like that.
That's my takeaway. I think it feels jailish. It feels Matrixy. It feels Truman Showy. It feels like something's controlling it, whether it's a big bad or it's Sword or it's even both grappling for her. And I think that could be an interesting statement on the person who could control anything and change reality actually has no control of this one. So within this little box, literally, she could control the narrative, but beyond that, she has no control. In fact, she's shackled to it for now.
How pissed and or elated will people be if it just turns out to be old X-Men villain Arcade? People are like, no, it should have been Mephisto. And like, well, he, mutants, I guess. All right, I'll take Arcade. But I like the idea that I personally want it to be like her sorrow is creating all this shit. But I would be happy if there was a backstory, like we sent her in on a mission and she hasn't come out and something's wrong. Like that'd be kind of dope. Like that'd be dope world building. And it's much.
I'm hoping it's all for the sake of storytelling, because like you said, there's an area of mystery. Also with Strange, and Wanda, there's a huge cerebral element. So we have to stop with the explosions and think for a second. So we need to lay things out slowly. And then on top of that, it is, a Marvel property. So there needs to be a big bad villain. So I actually think it's going to be a deep, emotional superhero TV show with style.
I'm in.
Also, I'm optimistic and deep in quarantine. So I need this, guys.
Yeah, don't we all? Let's talk about those lucky fuckers that got to see 3 episodes. A lot of people in chat were saying that episode 3, according to the critics who've seen it thus far, they shipped 3 episodes because that's where it really starts to coalesce for anybody in the audience. Like, I guess if you're way deep into this stuff, maybe you get there sooner than some folks. I have not myself, but they're speculating that 3 episodes were sent out because by the end of the third, there's clearly a like, oh, this is what's going on. So it sounds like maybe one more week, and then we get a lot of questions answered.
Yeah, like that's kind of how I felt about the first 2, is that you've peeled back just a little bit of the wrapping paper on the present, enough to see that like, oh shit, there's colors under here. That's cool. But I kind of wanted like a full side to be like, oh, now I see what's happening. You know, like, and also I kind of wish that if we're gonna skip decades into sitcoms, that we went a little faster. Like get me to the Jeffersons. That's kind of where I want to be.
So true.
Move on up.
Yeah.
Somebody said, and I don't know if this is true, but they looked at the area code for Westview and it was 732.
That's Jersey, baby.
You ain't fucking kidding, son. I heard that online. I was like, what? I was so
keeping her in Jersey.
Holy shit, this is different, bro. Let's watch WandaVision.
I'm like, they can take as long as they fucking want now. Hey, Steve, pop back in because somebody asked a question about your skull in the background. They were like, is that a Havoc staff? What do you got back there behind you?
Let me go grab it. That is a life-size Tauntaun skull that I 3D printed. Hold on, it's huge.
He just casually throws it out there as like a 3D, a life-size Tauntaun skull that I 3D printed, as you do.
All right, I found it past the first marker because he froze.
Look at that shit. That is dope, man. So what? Somebody put up a design online to print up your own fucking Tauntaun skull?
Yeah, so somebody did like a Kickstarter, and they had this and a Rancor, like Greedo. But I thought like a life-size Tauntaun skull would be cool to hang on the wall of Scum and Villainy, back when, you know, Scum and Villainy was open.
That is dope.
What's that?
Put it in the baby's room.
Oh, yeah, she'd like that.
Yeah.
It's like, you know.
If you have any sort of fireplace, it belongs right above it.
Fantastic. All right, man. So that's what we got for WandaVision for you this week, kid. Mercifully, we'll have shit to talk about for the next few weeks. It's going to be all WandaVision all the time until this is done. And then am I wrong? Is Falcon and Winter Soldier starting shortly after that?
I think in March they had talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier. So if we get, and again, like Skylar said, I have no idea how long the order is, how many episodes we get of WandaVision, but it very well could bring us to Falcon and Winter Soldier. And maybe they dovetail. Who the hell knows?
All mystery. That magic fucking time. Marvel's got us by the balls now, right at home. Thank God. The Marvel Cinematic Universe has come to your living room, kids, over on Disney Plus. Go check out WandaVision if you haven't seen it yet. Don't believe anything we said. Think it out for yourself. Meantime, you want to stick around, Skylar? We're going to talk about some other shit we saw.
I'm here to hang.
I saw, what did I watch this? I watched 3 movies in a row. Because after I was done writing Clerks 3, I celebrated by like, now I just want to watch other people's stuff. And I watched Promising Young Woman. Have you seen that yet?
No, I've heard it's good though.
I actually have a link to it I'm supposed to watch. I hear she's amazing in it.
It's insanely well done. Carrie Mulligan, that's her name. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Does a great job. It's got a great cast, well written, stylishly directed. Really good watch. That was on, I want to say Amazon or something like that. Then I watched, I want to call it, I forget what it's called, but JC, can you look up, it's a Rainn Wilson movie and he falls in a hole. Essentially, that's the plot. And that's not the title, like The Hole, but
it too.
It was like these 2 kids are like robbing a house and then they're running away and he's a security guard and he goes to chase him, but then he falls down this like old well shaft. And so he's stuck in the movie and the one brother is like, fucking leave him there. And the other brother's like, we got to get him.
I think it's
What's-
called "Don't Tell a Soul."
That's the name of it. The title makes no sense. I would have called it The Hole in the Woods, but whatever. Fuck. Totally fucking good watch. Where at first I was like, all right, I know where this is going, and then they kept twisting and turning it every half hour. It was kind of impressive. And then I watched movie with the girl from Get Out, Allison Williams, and it was called, I want to say it's called Horizon Line. Is a movie about like her and another dude in a plane, like a Piper Cub, one of those with a propeller plane. And the guy who's, I think it was Keith David, has a heart attack, the pilot, and they're like fucked. There's nowhere to land, and they're like in the middle of the ocean, and nobody knows how to fly the fucking plane. So I watched the trailer, and I'm like, all right, fucking like that's like Clerksian. One set, couple characters. I want to see how they pulled this shit off. And it was interesting in as much as like, yeah, I guess if you're doing a whole movie set inside a fucking plane, a small plane, like this is how you would pull it off. So I did fall asleep watching it, and that tends to make any movie better, right? Because it compresses time, and then you wake up and you're like, that was good. Like my wife watched the whole thing, and she was like, I was bored, but I watched a shortened version of the movie because I'd fallen asleep, and I was quite entertained. So those are the things that I watched. What'd you watch this week?
Let's see. I watched, speaking of Clerksian limited locations film, I watched One Night in Miami.
Ooh,
Yes,
Regina King.
Regina King's directorial debut, which is based on a play written by Kemp Powers, who also wrote the screenplay and also co-directed and co-wrote Soul, which just came out a couple weeks back on the Disney Plus. Very talented dude, but it's about a single night in 1963 when Muhammad Ali, Malcolm X, Sam Cooke, and Jim Brown are all hanging out. They're all down there for then Cassius Clay's fight against Sonny Liston. And so it's all about like these four sort of titans of culture just being together in ultimately what is one hotel room for an evening. And what happens when these four people collide and contrast and complement each other. And it is very much, it was a stage play. And so it's very much built like a stage play. Regina finds ways to open it up. There's, flashbacks to other events. There's, 2 or 3 other locations added to it. But it is just this really wonderful character study of what it's like to have been a paragon of your culture at a time when the culture desperately needed those paragons. And then what it's like to also just be human beings in and amongst, the world at that time. So, what makes Malcolm X laugh? Like what makes, Cassius Clay be serious? How do these people who have so much in common differ in their opinions as to, ways to help improve the culture, especially for African Americans at the time? And it's just so well thought out. It's so deeply empathetic for all of these people. And it's trying its best to be honest about what may or may not be a fictional event, but who these men were at this time and the pressures that were forcing them into or away from the situations they would eventually find themselves in. The cast is phenomenal. The performances are terrific. And it's hard, I'm sure you can speak to it as well as anybody, Kev, to squeeze every last bit out of one location and not make it feel claustrophobic and not make it feel kind of just like wall bound. And she finds ways to move this camera in what is ultimately a 2-room hotel suite in ways that open it up emotionally and physically. It is a marvel to watch. And it feels like it's one of those, it should win all the awards. But who the hell knows what happens in a year like this? What do awards mean? Like, what is the competition like? When do we get to have Oscars or Golden Globes or any of that stuff? But ultimately, it almost doesn't matter because it is this wonderful piece that I think everybody should watch. Like, and if you need a thing, if you have your Amazon Primes and you're looking for a thing to watch on Martin Luther King Day about Black history, this is as good a thing you could choose to watch as any.
What and Regina King directed, but she's not in it at all.
No, not in it at all.
Like that actor move when they after they've worked, because she's been working since she was a fucking kid, right? Like
227, baby.
Since how old?
She was on 227, and like
yeah. So she was like a preteen, I think, when she was on
like 14.
So here she is, like, you know, working in this business for close to, if not over 30 years and stuff.
She just turned 50. So yeah.
Sitting behind every different kind of director who's ever directed her in something, building her own estimation of like, well, this is what I would do if I was in charge. And then you get to step up to the plate. And I always think it's very like generous of actors who make that transition to not like put themselves in it. My first instinct would be like, fuck you. After like not getting picked forever, now I'm directing, I'm putting myself in the fucking thing. But I always think it's really like kind of cool and classy when an actor doesn't have to appear in his thing. Like Robert Redford made Ordinary People, but he ain't in Ordinary People. Mm-hmm. And everyone treated him seriously like as a director because of that. And it's certainly no slight to people who put themselves in their own movie. Clearly, I put myself in my own movies. Ben Affleck puts himself in his own movies and stuff. But I think it shows a great deal of restraint for an actor to be like, you know, I'm going to let somebody else shine. Because think about it. It's baked in. We got one right here. It's baked into the personality, isn't it, Skylar? You're like, I want to be in front and center.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always wanted to direct, but I think if I ever made that transition, I actually would prefer to not be in it because I just want to wear one hat and I want to be able to, I think, be taken seriously. The only way I would put myself in it is if I saw so much value from a producerial standpoint, where I did Pitch Perfect 2 with Elizabeth Banks. She directed that movie. She was not the first choice to play her character in the franchise. It was supposed to be Amy Poehler and then availabilities. And then it came to a point where she was with the studio being like, I mean, I'm on that list and we're going way below it at this point. Like, I should probably put myself in there. So I think that's the only way I would do it if I saw some sort of value. However, tell that to Robert Redford. But no, I think that's very noble. I'm very excited to see that. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and I think that it is part of that, you know, to your point, Skylar, the producerial map. You know, like, does Kevin Costner get $80 million to make Dances with Wolves if he's also not in it? Like, I'm the star. Like, I'm a fucking movie star. And the reason why you're letting me direct it is because I'm the guy who you have to have in it to be able to make this movie.
Yeah. If Rocky had Sylvester Stallone direct Nicolas Cage, it would have been a bit different.
Totally.
Of Nicolas Cage, has anyone seen the trailer for Willy's Wonderland?
No, but I've heard things.
Nick Cage, you know, essentially in, what was it, One Night at Freddy's or whatever? Like Nick Cage in fucking Chuck E. Cheese fighting all the robots come to life.
I'm here for it.
God bless her.
How the fuck is that not taking the world by storm? Like, I know we're all happy about WandaVision, but like that sounds like the most amazing movie ever made.
Yeah. When does it come out?
I don't know. They just popped up the trailer, man.
All
but
right.
we'll
do postmortem on that. I will take copious amounts of edibles and we will talk about that.
We would show that trailer, Skylar, but every time we show anything, we get in trouble and they throw us off YouTube.
All right.
I am sort of here. I remember, you know, reading an article with Nicolas Cage where somebody was like, dude, you could have been they offered him The Sopranos. They offered him Breaking Bad. They've offered him any number of TV shows. And he's always like, I'm a movie actor. Like, I do movies. And to him, it doesn't seem to matter the level of the movie, just as long as it's a movie. And it's like, fuck, all right, if you're going to do, you know, Color Out of Space and Mandy and Willy's Wonderland, like, I'm kind of here for this late period, you know, Nicolas Cage is just making shit.
It's good shit. He's making cool choices. In chat, the Big B Moss said, for the second episode in a row, what is under Kev's chin? I don't know what he means by that. I'm trying to look. Is it my second chin? Is that what you mean? I don't know what would be under my chin.
I think it's the shadow of the ring light makes your beard look very dark.
Oh, is that right?
I think so. That's kind of what I'm seeing. I also
I
wanted to chime in and say our pal Fat Black Patrick Swayze in chat had some thoughts on One Night in Miami.
Right.
Fat Black Patrick Swayze said, "One Night in Miami was like a superhero meetup movie without the superheroes," which I thought was great.
That's an excellent description.
It is very much like, let's all get together and fight racism. And I'm here for that.
Always. Somebody in chat, it passed by, I gotta find it, but they were like, "I'm white. Will I like this?" I think yes.
I hope so, and you should.
Yeah, I don't think race has much to do with whether you'll enjoy the movie or not. But I think if you like well-made stuff, it sounds like it's well-made. Did you see anything else, Mark?
I watched the show on Netflix, which it's called. No, I'll pronounce it in the if you just read it way, Lupin, Lupin. If you are fancy, it's Lupin because it's French. And Lupin is a French literary character who, I suppose the closest analogy would be, in terms of kind of like style and grace, is Sherlock Holmes. It was like France's response to Sherlock Holmes, in that he's a gentleman burglar. He's incredibly smart, super erudite, very well heeled, who would just kind of like travel the world and like do crime, but in like really sweet ways. A bit like Simon Templar. Like he became like, oh, I'm going to do a lot of disguises and I'm going to, kind of help people, but also rob the rich and give to the poor and also myself because I like to drive nice cars and wear nice clothes. The character's been adapted a bunch of different times in both live action and animation in Japan. Hayao Miyazaki made a Lupin Castle of Cagliostro film. There's a brand new Lupin the Third CGI animated movie that looks crazy fun that just dropped like 2 months ago. But this is a character played by Omar Sy, who won all kinds of awards for The Untouchables. He was Bishop in one of those X-Men movies, one of the less good X-Men movies. But he's playing the son of a Senegalese immigrant whose father is framed for a crime he didn't commit, who kills himself in prison. And so now this kid grows up by himself in France and styles himself after this notorious literary character. And it's like a heist a week, and it's incredibly fun. And so it's just like Ocean's 11 meets Thomas Crown Affair meets Leverage, which was one of my favorite TV shows of the last like 10 years. Like it's just got such bounce to it and such just it's French. So like it looks amazing because they're shooting in Paris and the first thing is a heist at the Louvre and they get to fucking shoot in the Louvre, and it's not Vancouver. There's a giant glass fucking pyramid and it's the Louvre and it's amazing. But it was that kind of just effervescent little kind of bouncy drama that I was looking for at precisely the time that I was looking for it, which was on the heels of a notorious insurrection in America. Like I needed something just fun to watch, kind of foreign, really classy, instead of the not classy, not foreign insurrection we had here.
You're getting a lot of love for your Lupin love in chat. Everyone's like, Lupin! And then somebody asked, Drew Gordon says, wow, less viewers than EFAP and Nerdrotics Friday Night Tights. I wonder why. I think he's saying we don't have a lot of viewers. I'm 50. I stopped worrying about the size of my dick a long time ago, kids. I'm happy anybody shows up to listen to us talk about our shit, but you do have to remember, me and Mark are middle-aged men. And we're doing a 2-hour show where we just talk to each other on the internet. That's not sexy to a bunch of people. The fact that we get like over 150,000 views every week always impresses me because I'm like, I wouldn't watch this show. Like I'd listen to the show, but why the fuck would I want to watch it? Look at two middle-aged fucking men. One of them always crying about WandaVision or some Marvel fucking thing. The other guy's shitting on everything. I'm shocked anyone shows up. So thank you to the viewers that do show up. I'm not that guy that's like, where's everyone else? I'm fucking shocked anybody's here. Andrew Chambers, is that the name?
I was going to say, who else it impresses? Native DEO.
Thank you, my friend.
They're not sweating the size of our audience.
They are not. They don't sweat the small things. And we got a big thing. So there. It's real big. Native DEO. NativeDEO.com, ladies and gentlemen, /Fatman. Somebody asked, is that Kevin Smith Club? Oh, Andrew Chambers says, I was thinking of joining that Kevin Smith Club today. Is that still a thing? Fuck yeah, it's a thing, man. Join me at that Kevin Smith Club every week. New content and cool shit like that. All right, what else have we watched?
Yeah, what have you been watching in quarantine, Skylar?
I watched HBO's The Outsiders, but I'm sure that's an old conversation. But I really liked it. It was really. I don't know if they're going to do a second one, but I thought it was great. But I had.
Are you talking The Outsiders?
Jason Bateman, yeah.
So the Jason Bateman show that, spoilers, wasn't a Jason Bateman show? Like, yeah. I thought they advertised that so well because I'm like, my boy, it's Michael Bluth. I can't wait to watch it. Wait, what? And then he was fucking gone. And he was behind the camera. He's a hell of a fucking director.
Yes.
He directs Ozark and he directs this as well. Some episodes of The Outsider. I thought he did a really good job. And I enjoyed it, but right up until the last episode. Last episode felt very like, oh.
Couldn't agree more. They're like, we got a finish line. It's here. Let's make it a Demogorgon situation, kind of. Let's kill everyone in a shootout. God, spoilers everywhere, everybody. But something that I did see that I've had the privilege of seeing this week actually was Cherry by the Russo Brothers, which doesn't come out for a while.
You're talking about you didn't just see the trailer. We all saw the trailer online, but you saw the whole feature?
I saw the movie film. Yes.
It'll come out for a few months, correct?
I'm aware. I was, I don't know. I guess I have like the same representation as Sierra Bravo, who's a star-making performance, by the way. Huge fan, obviously, of the Russo brothers. They're kings to me. So I was really excited. And then I was able to attend. They had a virtual Q&A, kind of like people are watching us, but it was the Russo brothers, Tom Holland, Sierra Bravo, the two writers. One of them is married to Anthony Russo, and also it was hosted by Robert Downey Jr. for no reason. I was like, all right. And he's like, Tom, and he's like doing banter with Tom, but also like giving it up to his incredible performance. I felt so lucky to be there. It was great.
That is really cool. What can you tell us about the movie? What are you allowed to tell us? What is it about? It looks like it's he goes into the service and then he turns to Robin Banks. That's what I got from the trailer. Yeah,
there is a middle part that deals, but that is a really huge thread of the movie, which is the opioid crisis, and he and his girlfriend get addicted. So
Does it take place in the present?
It's like a 2017. It's not quite 2019 or even definitely not 2020, but it is amazing. It's so many things in one. Those guys have such style. They do some really fun stuff with lighting and color, and they're obviously such cinephiles. I'm sure it's homages to other movies, but it really had continuity. I mean, and talk about like bringing it back to the way WandaVision pulled the aspect ratio, a whole sequence of the film, pretty much a whole act, where they pulled it in to show the maybe claustrophobia or tension or turmoil of war. So you get a war movie, you get a beautiful coming of age story about this one guy and his girlfriend. You get, and then you get obviously that leading to darker times when he comes home with PTSD, drug use, and then eventually, heists and all kinds of stuff. But it's done in a real gritty way. I mean, I won't say it's like Breaking Bad, but you feel dirty when you watch it, and you feel his emotional struggle. Like, he fluctuates weight a few times. Tom Holland has major early Leo vibes in this film. I think you might see a lot of critical acclaim and definitely some sort of nominations for him and the Russo brothers, and maybe even Sierra Bravo too. It's really good shit.
And this is the first Russo brothers directing since Endgame, right?
Yep, this is the one they picked. Apparently, this is the one they were kicking around to Tom on and off. They had been talking about this with RDJ apparently for a really long time. This is something that was really important to them. It's set in Cleveland, which was personal for the brothers, and they just trusted the writers to write it. They've been shaping it, and it's a huge performance piece, and it's fucking bomb.
I love the Russo brothers, not the least of which, of course, because they made some of the greatest Marvel movies of all time, and because they fucking worked on Arrested Development and many other things that I've loved, but also because they use their power for good. So like they created this show that was supposed to be on Quibi called the Slugfest that I did like a voiceover for, and it's all about comics history, deep dives, because it was Quibi, 8-minute episodes about big moments in comic book history. The good news is they just announced, Quibi went under. All the shows are going to Roku, so people are going to be able to watch Slugfest, which the Russo brothers produced and put together with the kids that directed Batman and Bill. Remember that documentary?
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah. So it's a fantastic show, and it's made with love. Clearly, nobody was going to make this show unless the Russos were like, "Oh, we think this would be great because it tells the story of comics behind comics and stuff." So I not only do I love what they do in their day job as directors, but I love the fact that they used their juice to create something as cool as fucking Slugfest as well. I don't know when it starts, but you'll be able to watch it on Roku fairly soon. And it sounds like Cherry is amazing. The trailer I thought looked really good. There was one overhead shot in the trailer where I was like, these guys are fucking visual stylists. And you forget because you watch the Marvel movies and you're just like, well, it's a Marvel movie, so it's got to look like this. But they've got their own style, man. And it's clearly on display in that trailer.
Yeah, they use their powers for good. I mean, they have their pick of anything. And they used to, shed light on this crisis, but also just, pick this different thing for them. By the way, that overhead shot lasts quite a while. So you're going to really enjoy that sequence. And I think that I always love people that get to just do what they love. I mean, that's what they earn, but a lot of people don't make those decisions because there's so many other masters to serve and monetizing it. So it's pretty dope.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's good to hear that Sierra Bravo is good. She was in Wayne, this show that I blew up a couple weeks back.
That show I watched the first episode. That was a dope show. So she's the girl? Is she the little kid? She's fantastic. The one with the thick masshole accent? She was great. Peter File 69 in chat said, Charlie Cox Daredevil just finished shooting scenes of Spider-Man 3. We haven't had official confirmation, but Kevin Feige been doing a bunch of press in advance of WandaVision last week. Once again, one of those things where I'm like, why don't we fucking have him on this show? If only we applied ourselves. I feel like we're in high school, and then people are always telling me if you just apply yourself, and we really don't apply ourselves.
Underachiever.
Yeah, fuck. But anyway, he was out there doing a bunch of press, and people started asking him like, "Hey man, is fucking Charlie Cox and Spider-Man? Is this? Is this?" And some questions he answered, and some questions he was very facetious about or something like that. One, they were like, when does the phase 4 end? And he just didn't even fucking answer them. He was just like, yeah. So what was I bringing that up for? Oh,
Charlie Cox.
So apparently I don't know why, but you assume when it happens on Twitter, there must be some origin to the truth, but I don't know why I assume that. It's probably not, but they said that Charlie Cox was on set at Spider-Man 3, shot and wrapped already.
Wow.
And who would he be playing if not Matt Murdock?
Jim Murdock? Matt Murdock, distant cousin?
In a world where they're doing a multiverse storyline, I don't know. Do we think this is the introduction of the TV characters, of the Netflix characters to the Marvel Cinematic Universe?
I mean, it technically doesn't have to be because they always referenced the events of the MCU in those shows, even if they didn't do it by name. It was always like, oh man, here's some debris from the fucking event that anybody wants to buy or whatever. So it feels like it's in the same universe. They just ignored it.
Now it looks like they might be like, yeah, they're here too.
We'll give them a little crumb. Come here. We'll take Daredevil, Luke Cage. I'm not sure yet. We'll talk.
Yeah. Iron Fist too.
A soupçon of each, I'll totally take. There was also another rumor this week that, what was the other Netflix show?
Jessica Jones.
That Jessica Jones might be popping up in She-Hulk. Now, once again, don't see why it can't happen. Makes sense. And it seems like, Kevin Feige now more amenable to pulling in some of the Netflix. Well, now they've got all the Netflix rights back, right? The whole reason they didn't touch him before was Netflix had the Daredevil rights for a while, but now everything is back in Marvel's camp, so they could do whatever they want.
Right. And it's also that there was a 2-year, call it a non-compete clause isn't quite right, but it was 2 years between the cancellation of those shows and when those characters could appear anyplace else. Marvel always owned them because it was a Marvel TV production, but it was that 2-year window that officially expired a month and a half ago.
Buck Odie pointed out in the chat this week, there was a story that ran where it was Chris Evans is back as Captain America. He's in talks with Marvel. And then Chris Evans tweeted, news to me. So instantly throwing a little water on that fire. However, the kids in the Marvel movies, they ain't always 100% honest with us, are they, Mark? Sometimes they like to be misleading.
Well, we can either do the news or you can read it in bits and pieces from the comments.
Let's do that. I forgot we had news to do. Take us into the news, ladies and gentlemen. Mark Bernardin is an old news hound, and he sniffed out some news. He's going to give you the news. Here's Mark Bernardin with the news.
Hey, Captain America's back.
What? I had no idea, as if this person didn't tell me in chat. Yeah, what's the idea? Is this for real or is a rumor or what?
Yeah, it does seem to be real. At least sources have told Deadline that this is real. And yes, it's 100% true that Tatiana Maslany denied being She-Hulk for 6 months before she said, oh, that's right, I'm She-Hulk. Because that's what Marvel does. Marvel disavows knowledge until they're ready to confirm knowledge. Or not even confirm it, just say a thing is true and move on. But yes, it's, Chris Evans is dusting the dust off his Captain America uniform, or at the very least, the Steve Rogers of it all, to reappear in the MCU, not as the star of his own movies, much in the way that RDJ returned, but not in an Iron Man movie, like he was back in Captain America movies and back in Spider-Man movies and back in Avengers movies. But there were no Iron Man movies after Iron Man 3. And so I don't know if there will be Captain America movies past Captain America Civil War. But the character seems as if he will return into the MCU for reals.
It says my internet connection's unstable, so I may be coming in and out. What is what's the upside to this? For the audience, wonderful upside. But yes, Chris Evans seemed to be very I'm done. That's finished, and I'm happy I did it, but I'm done.
It's such a great send-off. I mean, it was a perfect send-off. And he has been quoted saying that so many times.
Yeah, he seemed very much that's behind me, and not in a shitty way where I didn't like it. He seemed to love it, but he was I'm done.
I give it the post-Endgame Spider-Man Fallout clause. If used properly, the way it was, I think it could work. Universe, Wanda's going to now open up to bring it back to WandaVision. So they must have a real reason. And I think if he's considering it, I'd actually trust him. I actually believe from the very little that I've read about him and know about him that, of course, money's a thing, but I actually think that, he would want to listen to them. And there must be a real cool reason.
Let me tell you what I hope it is. I hope they pull him in for Multiverse of Madness, and I hope he's the one that has to get to Wanda.
Also, by the way, there was a total long period of time where he was aging. Don't you want to see 50-year-old Cap? I mean, we went straight from 30s to 70s. Why can't we catch up with him at some point? That's
there's
why
a whole
101.
There's 60 years worth of Earth history that he's around for. Granted, it does speak volumes. They're hey, man, a lot of people got shot while you were just dancing with your girl. Also, a war or two. Also, I don't know, terrorism. But, you keep dancing, champ.
You know what? He earned that break, God damn it. He gave so much for us.
But there's 100% some story of what the fuck does Captain America do watching the world fall apart, but can't be Captain America. Or there's the the sort of Batman Beyond version of Steve Rogers, one of the world's greatest tacticians, even at 70, helping to coordinate and plan and, you know, be Nick Fury, for lack of a better Fury. You know, and maybe he's the fucking older mentor for Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Maybe he is some, you know, gigantic brain for something that's happening in phase 4, phase 5.
But the old Cap, who came back and was like, no, I ain't going to tell you about the lady I've been having sex with, and get the shield to Sam. He wouldn't, like, that wouldn't necessarily be the Cap we would get. We would get young Cap if they were doing it, right? Like, he don't have, it's not like now you can only have old Cap. And just for the story, he came back and was like, here's the fucking shield. Like, did you get
be either? There's no reason it couldn't be either or both to a certain degree.
I mean, I have an idea. What if it's actually because, now hear me out, we got Wanda building the multiverse, creating her own realities. What if he becomes, you know, he goes up in flames as Captain America and turns into the Human Torch, and he's back for Fantastic Four to reprise his role. They're doing all these reprisals. I mean, that's rock and roll to me. I want to be the Thing for that. That's the only chance I have in that movie because I'm Jewish and Ben Grimm was Jewish, so I would want to keep it in there. But I would also just want to see it as a fan. I think that's really be absolutely ridiculous.
You're selling yourself short, Skylar. You could totally pull off a Sue Storm easily.
Thank you.
As long as we get the scene where Johnny Storm meets Johnny Storm and it's fucking Michael B. Jordan and Chris Evans.
Hey, they're doing that with the Spider-Man. Might as well get Miles Teller in there, get, you know, Kate Moss.
That means you could have Killmonger meet the Human Torch as well.
Yes.
So many opportunities.
Now we're getting into X-Men world. There's a lot of actors that are going to be employed these days.
I froze.
Rebecca Romaine, you are coming back.
Everybody goes to work.
That's right.
Speaking of Marvel, Ethan Hawke has just signed on to join the Moon Knight cast.
Oof.
Did we lose Kev?
No, I'm back. Sorry. My shit keeps going in and out.
Ethan Hawke, Moon Knight.
Yes, bad guy, they're saying, but not who.
They're not saying who. But you know.
Could be Kong Shu, could be, I don't know. That's the only villain of his that I'm aware of.
There's also one called Bushman, who's a fellow mercenary who turned on the hero when the Egyptian gold came into the picture. There's a couple of options, but if he's Honshu, that's also super cool. And it's also fucking cool that Ethan Hawke is going to be a villain in a Marvel TV show. I mean, all of these are sentences nobody thought you'd ever say out loud.
He's an incredible, unbelievable, incredible actor.
I just don't find it that surprising that he's in a Marvel TV show. I think every actor would love to do it, like, because now it's been made so like cool mainstream, you know, by Robert Downey Jr. and shit like that. I don't think there's any actor on the planet. Maybe Daniel Day-Lewis would be like, I ain't doing that. Like, they come out.
I'm gonna cobble instead.
Yeah. He's like, I'm gonna make some damn shoes.
I would like to be Wolverine.
Say again?
I was doing a very bad There Will Be Blood impersonation of Daniel Plainview.
While Kevin was drinking your milkshake.
Indeed.
That's good. What other news we got? Wasn't good. I just didn't hear it.
Yeah. Deadpool will absolutely be in the MCU, and it will be 100% an R-rated movie.
I mean, that's smart and makes absolute sense. Why it ain't broke? Why fucking fix it? And you get even more laughs by being the R-rated guy in Disney World. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, fuck Mickey Mouse doggy style. It's gonna be awesome.
You know, and if there's a world in which Chris Evans is returning as Captain America, honestly, is there a team up you would want to see more than Deadpool and Captain America?
Oof.
Yes. Deadpool and my dead father, because then he'd be alive again. Can I get that crossover, Mark?
You have to get the Dreaming Stone from Wonder Woman 84, and then yes, you can have that.
Worked in that movie. I could get a wishing rock. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
But yeah, I mean, Feige, again, to your point, he was doing a lot of press. kind of during that press thing, he says, yeah, no, Ryan Reynolds is currently overseeing the script, which will be rated R. And that Feige's very excited to bring a very different type of character into the MCU.
Absolutely. That's good news. You like it when people do smart things, Mark.
You know, it's obvious, and yet sometimes people don't do the obvious good thing. They find ways to do weird ass shit that doesn't make any sense.
So true. That's why we love Kevin Feige. He is the only Kevin in the world that matters, the Kevin who must be spared at all costs.
Put him in bubble wrap. Just make sure.
Protect that man.
Indeed. Flipping to the other side of the fence, let's talk about DC, the DCEU, and let's talk about the fact that Martian Manhunter is going to be in Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yes. The actor who played the general character.
Yes, General Swanwick, Harry Lennox, who's been playing apparently Martian Manhunter the entire time.
He did play it like that?
It's the same character, the same dude, like, and in Man of Steel, he's playing this guy, and yeah, like Harry Lennox is now going to be John Jones. And as far as we can tell, has always been.
So they're going to show us their version of John Jones. We've seen the live action version, of course, for the last few years on Supergirl. Mm-hmm. And now we're going to see what like the DC extended universe, Zack Snyder's Martian Manhunter is going to look like. Are there any images yet or no? I know he likes to put up things on. He gives
a little cast chair with a little, like, you know, bit of art.
Twitter, but he does some other thing where he distributes lots of images, and it's where all that Snyder Cut info seems to emanate from. What is the platform he likes?
Vera, I think.
Yeah, Vero or something like that. And periodically you see stories where they're like, he showed a picture of Martian Manhunter. So I didn't know if there was any imagery out yet.
I haven't seen any.
We're close. Did I freeze?
And we can hear you but not see you.
I did freeze.
We can hear you, and you look great. It's a good one to pause on.
No, it really is. It's like sort of like mildly bemused.
Yeah, and you just popped out of it.
Oh, hey, man.
Sorry, my internet's getting unstable by the second.
Well, it's a great time to talk about native DEO. Don't be a liar. You know you perspire.
Ooh.
Yeah, I've been working on that for 40 seconds.
That's producing, kid. That is running ads. Well done.
I got to get asked back.
That'll get you asked back. Native's gonna send us a telex or a fax and be like, that Skylar kid comes back or we drop out of the show.
Yeah.
But yes, Harry Lennox has shot the necessary footage to complete the character's appearance. He said that he was always planned to be in Justice League, but that the schedule was that he was still shooting Blacklist, and Zach, by the time was going to get around to it, had left the picture. Had sort of begged off when Joss Whedon came in. So, you know, everybody seems thrilled that they were able to make this thing happen. That was kind of always planned to happen.
Oh my God. I keep going out.
We see you though. You're still here. Hey, baby. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the DCEU, Cyborg has Ray Fisher has found himself written out of the Flash movie. I mean, and we had sort of talked about this before in the ongoing coverage of the Ray Fisher scenario. But Justice League actor Ray Fisher was offered a cameo role last June to appear as Cyborg in the Flash movie. Oh, hey, here he is. We're talking about Cyborg.
Yeah, he ain't in the movie no more.
He's not in the movie anymore. Although, you know, and we talked about it before, that he has publicly resigned from a film that they decided they didn't want him in. And so now he's not in. But the character is being written out of the Flash movie entirely. They're not recasting. They've just decided not to go that way. And yeah, the Ray Fisher saga continues, and it continues to confuse me in ways, but also be like totally clear. Like, here's a dude who has vast and deep issues with Warner Brothers brass at large, with Joss Whedon specifically, and continues to claim that, you know, malfeasance was done to him along racial lines. And so Warner Brothers has decided that they don't want to have anything to do with him anymore. So, I mean, I honestly don't know what more there is to say about the situation, given that there does not seem to be any new information coming out.
It's a bummer overall because clearly, something bad happened. He didn't have a good time on that movie. And whatever they've done, they said they took remedial action or whatever, still hasn't satisfied Ray. But I don't get it. Didn't he say a couple weeks ago that he was like, I'm never going to make a movie as long as that guy's there?
Right. As long as Walter Hamada remains at Warner Brothers as the head of DC.
Did Warner Brothers essentially just go like co-signed, or what was the story of this week?
Yeah, basically it was, okay, that's cool. Then we're not going to put you in this movie. And in fact, there's not going to be a cyborg in this movie. We're just writing the character out of the Flash entirely.
I mean, I'm not I support anybody if they feel they've been done poorly by the system or whatever. And I too have been somebody who's railed against a studio from time to time. That being said, I've bitten the hand that feeds, as they say. That being said, it really does, come back to bite you in the ass. Like, I can't think of a single time that I got mouthy about a studio or bit the hand that fed, where I was like, and then I came out on top. So, it's great to have the kind of integrity where you could be like, I don't give a shit about the repercussions or what it does to my career. This is important to be said. Or I need to say this. This is my truth or whatever. But it does not help one get employed. That's for sure.
No. And I do, I have sympathy for Ray and I'm here for him in to a certain degree, but I also don't really know his specific issues. Like, he's never actually come out and said, this is what happened to me, and so it's a little hard to truly just sort of rally the forces without this specific remedy that he's looking for. It's a bit like, hey, Mr. Fire Person, can you come to my house? And they're like, is there a fire? It's like, you gotta come see, but is there a fire? No, just come real fast. Are things on flames? Man, would you come to my house? Like, I just want the data. Like, tell me the story. And, because all of this always ends up working, on A, a proof basis, and B, a narrative basis. Like, tell me what the story was, and tell me how bad it was, and tell me exactly what happened. Where on the doll did the bad man touch you? And until that kind of information comes out, this always just feels a lot like he said, she said, which is fine if they stop saying and just start doing, but that is just me. That's
I feel bad for the kid, man. Clearly, like, he feels that he was done wrong, because he's still, this is still going on. We're still hearing about this story. So on one hand, I'm like, good for him for, like, his integrity, but on the other hand, what happens next? Like, I hope he gets more work soon.
Yeah. I hope this was all worth it.
Yeah.
For him.
It's a bummer though, man. Like, that's the thing about, like, fucking when a movie goes bad or people have a bad experience, like, this is the one place where it should be fun. You're an adult and you get to make fucking pretend. Like, nobody should ever be screamed at on a movie set unless some equipment is falling at them or some such shit. And nobody should ever walk away from a movie feeling like used, abused, less than, being fucking sad or whatever the fuck. Like, it's the greatest scam in the world, man, where they're going to pay you as an adult to make pretend and do shit you used to do as a kid. And it sucks when, people walk out of that experience and they have a bad time. Like, because honestly, I can't think of a better job in this world than fucking making pretend as an adult. It's easy. It's fucking fun. Sometimes they pay you obscenely to do so. And I always, at least as a filmmaker, I hate when you hear somebody left a movie and they like, oh, I hated it, or it changed my experience, or I don't want to do this shit anymore. Like, it should be it should be fucking camp for everybody. Skylar, back me up.
I couldn't agree more. It's a very privileged job. And like, you know, I'm not saying anything against this specific story, but in my experience, you know, the best way to hear an actor complain is to give them a job. And like, oftentimes you just hear people talking about quitting and drama and things on set. And from the actor's perspective, I think it's crazy. I mean, I always maintain or try to maintain a healthy attitude. And when I'm number one on the call sheet, it's like a pretty joyous place. I think everyone would report that they had a good time. So I also like to leave a nice trail behind me. And not to say I'm a brown noser. I can actually say very confidently that a lot of the people I've worked with would say, yeah, I'd work with that guy again. And like, that is a big part of my goal. Because we are on this performance-based thing. So when you walk away from something in an indignant way like that, you know, you have to be willing to walk away from a lot. And so that is probably why I want the data, because I'm like, hey, what was this? Because like, you know, if this was enough to walk away from, we're not, no one, you know, we all know the opportunity you're walking away from.
Yeah, it's true. That's a reason why it should be taken seriously, is because like, clearly, you know, most people would be like, hey man, shut up. Like, you don't want to lose a job, but it's important enough for him to maintain the fight, so to speak.
Yeah. Just tell the story, you know, speak your truth. And if that's the case, then speak all of it, you know, and so that we can understand you better, you know, Ray Fisher, and then we can all help you make appropriate steps so that this doesn't happen again to anybody else. But without that story, it's hard, you know, at least for me, to be able to 100% like stand up behind somebody that I don't know. Like if it's somebody that I know and love and you tell me a bad thing happened, then we will 100% roll out the cavalry to your aid. But independent of any real information, it's just like, okay, I wish bad things didn't happen to you, but I don't know how we fix it without knowing exactly.
If God forbid it was a situation where, and I'm not saying anything happened, where Joss Whedon was just a bit more of a dick to him, and you know, his feelings got hurt, and it fed itself, and then you hear from other people, actually he was the negative one. I'm not saying that's the case, but you know what I'm saying? That would really be a tragedy, and that would be like a very young mistake. I'm sure there have been situations where something like that has happened. This, you never know. He could be so integral that he's like, actually, I don't owe anyone an explanation. Even though there's a big fan base behind the project, this is real life. And like, maybe he's taking his efforts and his talents to creating a piece of art or a way to tell his story that's more authentic to him. However, for me, it's like the data would only create a groundswell around that, and people could actually support that decision.
I can't imagine too, like, you know, it's not like the whole town's going to turn their back on the kid. I assume that Zach will put him in everything. They seem to have a tight connection. And the good news is that, and we're 2 months away from seeing Ray's showcase. You know what I'm saying? Like the version of Justice League apparently we were given hacked most of his stuff out. We're about to see a 4-hour version of it where all of Ray's performances is going to be reinstated as originally intended by the director. So there's a chance too that like people are like, holy shit, this guy's great. And all this stuff goes away because they just want to hire him again. You know what I'm saying? Like right now it's people going, who's saying this? The guy that was in Justice League for like 5 minutes, but they didn't see the part as it was intended to be played. They're about to see that 2 months from now. So maybe things turn around for Ray.
Also, maybe that contributed. Maybe that contributed to the way he felt. I mean, I know what it's like to be an actor and get your storyline removed and you're like, what? And even have the director be like, it totally worked. We were just long. Or like tested really well. We just chose the throw up scene. And you're like, what? In this case.
That sounded so oddly personal, Skylar.
What do you mean? You should see this, you know, that's not something that I'm exactly referencing, but yeah, but that's what I'm saying. I mean, and then if there was mistreatment on top of that, this isn't him walking away from the role entirely, right? It's just him walking away from The Flash, which is not even his own movie, which maybe doesn't want to work with that creative team. So who knows, we might get our own standalone movie from him. And this might have been one of the best, you know, side steps to his, you know, trajectory.
Fingers crossed for Ray. What else we got on the news front, Mark?
Last item today is I will mark boldly as a rumor. It is not reported out. It is not fact yet. It is one dude heard a thing, but the thing is kind of intoxicating, so I want to talk about it.
Okay.
The rumor is HBO Max is looking at making a Batman the Animated Series sequel. They want to continue that forward. Kevin
knows something.
I don't know what you're talking about. Look, here, I'll say this. I'm nobody's saying that I am, but I don't want it to seem like, ooh, he's involved. I'm not involved, but I too have heard this. And I've heard this from very reliable people.
Well, then.
And when I heard it, I freaked out. And I heard this, I would say a month before you just said it. So I think that's real. I don't think that's a rumor. I think you could start, I wouldn't say set your watch to it, but like it's an idea whose time is not only coming, I think it came and it's smoking a cigarette. I think that's going to happen. And how fucking amazing would that be? Because you can just literally pick up and keep going. It's not like, oh, we got to explain why everyone's older. It's fucking animation, man. Mm-hmm. So you can go right back to those amazing fucking stories. Those stories, those scripts, the run of Batman, the animated series, not only changed animation, it minted a generation of Paul Dini-like writers, people who watched that show and said, that's what's possible in this medium. So you got a lot of fucking great writers to pull from at this point. You know, naturally, we all hope that they go back to the brain trust of Bruce Timm and Paul Dini and Alan Burnett, you know, so forth and so on. But think about all the people, and this ain't me throwing my hat in the ring for a job and shit like that, but I'm saying, think about all the people who grew up watching that for the last 20 plus fucking years, who have become writers themselves. How many writers were made by Heart of Ice? The episode about Mr. Freeze that Paul wrote and stuff. So I would absolutely that to me is a no-brainer. You got HBO Max, you're already doing that amazing Harley Quinn show. Like that, you're printing money if you go back and do Batman the Animated Series. Here, you can't fuck up the legacy. That's for damn sure. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, they went back and did it again and now it's ruined, like the way some people felt about Twin Peaks and shit. You can't fuck it up. There's no reason not to do it. As long as you got the key creative components, as long as Bruce Timm is involved, wants to be there, fucking go for it, for heaven's sakes, man. And they just came out with, what was it, Batman Son of the Dragon? Is that what it's called? Mm-hmm. And that was Bruce Timm's, right?
I believe it was.
Yeah, because somebody told me about that a long time ago, was the same person that also told me about the animated BTAS reboot potential. So I ain't saying like it's done and contracts have been signed, but like somebody who I know who knows these things, like gave me the whole fucking, are you serious? They were like, oh yeah. So we got a fucking happy future ahead of us, man. The 2021 is the year of Masters of the Universe. I'm going to claim that shit right now for me and Mark. But 2022, I feel like that will be the year of Batman the Animated Series, The Return. That would be fantastic.
Yeah. You know, and whether it's, Bruce Timm, I hope he was involved or could be involved or not. But to your point, there's a generation of storytellers who were influenced by that show who could come to it with that mixture of reverence and sort of discovery that can absolutely be in the spirit of while being a new thing entirely, and still absolutely join up at the end of that train and continue on those stories. And you still have a Mark Hamill who may or may not want to do the Joker. You still have a Kevin Conroy who may or may not want to come back and do Batman. And it can just fall back into place. And that would be amazing to see.
Why wouldn't Mark Hamill do it? I feel like he does it for like hobbies on Twitter these days.
I mean, he is having just spent time with him as Skeletor. The man is incredibly fucking gifted and can really do voiceover in his sleep. However, he refuses to sleep. He's wide awake and giving you 110%. He don't execute. The dude constantly elevates. I can't imagine if they're like, we're getting the old gang back together, we're on a mission from God, that he don't jump in with both fucking feet, man. Like, we're living in a day and age where this kind of shit is possible, where like something, you know, when it was done, he thought they were done. And then all of a sudden they were like, hey, how about some video games? And they're like, oh, all right. And then that blew up into something huge too. But now they got the chance to like just go back and do it all again, make more. I can't imagine him or Kevin would say no. And I mean, scrape away everything else. They got that fucking HBO Max money, man. You know, like, what are they going to say no to that? No way.
So yes, fingers crossed. That would be amazing.
That'd be amazing. I'm, you know what? If I'm a betting man, if that was in the markets, if I played the stock markets and that was a potential stock to buy, I'd buy heavily in Batman the Animated Series reboot. I think that's going to be a reality. That's all the news, Mark.
That is all the news, my friend.
Give it up for Mark Bernard, ladies and gentlemen. He brought you the news. You are now up to date, for heaven's sakes. You know everything that's going on in this here world of pop culture and whatnot. After a very long show and a very weak internet connection, I'm probably going to bail without doing questions. We have been at this for like 2 hours, and I'm a little frustrated by how I'm getting kicked off my internet. But before we get out of here, big fucking round of applause for the dude who not only came, gave us content, talking about fucking Spring Awakening, and gave us a fucking early cherry review and stuff, but sat with us throughout the whole fucking show, man, and was never dead weight, man. You were welcome back any fucking time. Give it up for Skylar. Well done, sir.
Appreciate that. Yeah, have me back anytime, especially when I'm in quarantine.
I know you got nothing to do. When can they watch the TV show? What is it called again?
Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist. You could call it Infinite Playlist, just not when you're searching for it. Zoe's Extraordinary Playlist is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. We're about to be 3 episodes into season 2, but yeah, some wild shit. I do a Jekyll and Hyde type of musical number this past episode where I'm going in between songs and like, you know, glitching. So it's a real fun show. What
was your favorite song to cover so far?
I did. We actually did the entire American Pie as one 7-minute oneer. We have like the choreographer of La La Land and like all this really great stuff, Mandy Moore, and yeah, it's just like it's really artfully done. A lot of steady cam shots. So personally, I did. I think I Love You in the Pilot, Proclaimers. I Will Walk 500 Miles. So we kind of cover it all. But I'd say that sequence was pretty incredible.
Fucking hey, man. Right on. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is made possible by a grant from the Helena Rubinstein. No, not by Helena Rubinstein. Good folks at Native Deo. Deodorant, ladies and gentlemen. NativeDEO.com is where you can go to buy their fine products so you can smell pretty and get fresh. Native makes incredible shit. You tell them Fat Man sent you at checkout, they're going to give you 20% off if you're into that sort of thing. But if you really like the company, you say, fuck the discount, just give them their whole 100%. That's what I do all the time. Anytime a company tries to give me a discount, I say, I'm paying double. That's not true. But they're a great company. They've supported our show. Go to NativeDEO.com right now. There is no show without the guy who's right above me, man. Give it up for Mr. Marvelous Mark Bernard, ladies and gentlemen.
Always a pleasure, my friend.
And the man who makes it all happen, the man in the chair, our own Ned Leeds, if you will, ladies and gentlemen. Give it up for JC. JC, pop on and say hello. How's the kid?
Kid is good. She slept 10.5 hours last night.
Fucking mutant.
Huge.
She doesn't nap though. So like nights are good, days are really intense.
She's probably fucking terrified because she sees that Tauntaun skull. Wake moment of her life. Thank you to everyone for what was it, 2 weeks ago we did JC's birthday show. You guys were very nice and gave him some love. That means the world to us because without him we ain't got nothing going on. So thank you for hanging out, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back Saturday, boys. Feels like Saturday again.
Saturday.
We'll be back on probably earlier time than
yeah,
this
we
week.
Can do 4 p.m. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. I was recording the Hollywood Reporter Actors Roundtable today.
Well. Look at you.
We had to push.
Whipping out your I know famous people dick. Well done, my friend. Yeah, so we pushed a little bit this week, and next week on Saturday we'll get back together at 4 o'clock. And of course, 4 o'clock PST, 7 o'clock EST. And we'll be talking about the third and possibly most revelatory episode of WandaVision yet. But until that time, ladies and gentlemen, for Fat Man Beyond, I'm Kevin Smith.
I am Mark Bernardin.
I'm Skylar Astin.
Tune in next time, same fat time. JC, you can say your name.
I'm JC.
I saw you like he was moving toward the mic and he was like, I guess I don't get to do it.
Shucks.
Tune in next time, same fat time, ladies and gentlemen. Same fat channel, smodcast.com or
youtube.com/Kevin Smith.
Wakanda forever, ladies and gentlemen.
Peace.